Lara, let me start with you. You don't need to determine cause of death to get a conviction to prove a murder. I remember a few years back, there was a case, where was it, in Redwood City, California? And some guy was convicted of double murder, wasn't it? The murder of his pregnant wife and their unborn child, Connor.
That's correct.
First name Scott. Don't need to prove the cause, do we?
That's exactly true. In that case, the prosecution did not prove the cause of death, could not explain how it had happened, when it had happened, where it had happened, but still Scott Peterson at the time was convicted. And the same goes for this case, obviously. In this case, circumstantial evidence, even without any cause of death, it could be enough for a jury to convict these two individuals, Lori Vallow and her husband, Chad. I mean, the idea that the bodies were in fact found in Chad Daybell's backyard is pretty damning, if you ask me, even without a cause of death, especially when we've had about 9 months of these kids having disappeared, and the mom and her new husband have been saying nothing about it. I mean, we all know that the mom has been in custody for months and has said not a word, not a peep about where her children are. Pretty damning stuff here.
Bernarda, I love the way that you try cases. I've seen you try cases on the air. Would you be fired up? Would you be ready to take this case and go after Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell if and when there are murder charges?
Absolutely, Vinny. These are one of these cases that you just want to go all in, beast mode. It's just so sad to think that the parents can take away the life of two innocent kids. I will be so amped up in trying this case because there is no excuse. There is no reason for you to take the life of two innocent kids, especially ones that you gave birth to. What could have been going on in your mind? Why did you do that? What's going on with you? Just why?
That's a huge question here, and I think as we peel back the layers, it could get really ugly when you get to the why. And we're going to talk about that as our 13th juror question. Randy, put on professor mode here.
Right.
I don't know if we're going to have a cause of death. There might be a very good chance we don't, based upon what the prosecutor said about the egregious state of the remains of one of the children. We believe it's Tylee. The fact that we had a neighbor telling us about huge bonfires taking place in that backyard.
Right.
I don't know what happened to these children, but what if, Randy, what if we don't have the cause of death here?
So it sounds like you're posing a law school hypothetical. Maybe I'll put that on my next final exam. You know, the question is, if all you have is circumstantial evidence, what do? Well, you exclude every other possibility. And if you exclude every other possibility that somebody else caused this, that it was an accident, if you can exclude other possibilities, that and the circumstantial evidence that they had the opportunity, they had the ability, they didn't come forward before, it sounds like a case that there can be a conviction even without a cause of death.
All right, Lara, let's talk about the other thing that's happening that Chanley was telling us about. Vigils in Rexburg, we understand that. You know, the memorial in Salem, in Fremont County, we understand that. Then we go a little bit further away to Idaho Falls, they're having vigils. Then we go 5 hours across the state to Boise, and they're having vigils for these children. So now the defense, when and if there are charges here, again, no murder charges, but there are charges pending against Chad and Lori Vallow Daybell. Are they gonna cry that we can't get a fair trial and try to get this thing moved? And if so, where to? You got to stay in the state, don't you?
Clearly, that's going to be one of the issues that the defense is going to raise. Their clients are going to be entitled to a fair trial. And the only way you can get a fair trial is if you have an impartial jury that has not made up its mind before stepping foot into a courtroom. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we have a motion to change venue. And where do we take it? Well, wherever the publicity is least, wherever the defense counsel or the court and prosecutors believe is probably the best place to try it and the best place to give these individuals an impartial, unbiased jury and a fair trial.
Bernarda, this is I would say, arguably, from the reaction that we're getting out there, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, potential, again, we're still not there. We've got lesser charges right now, but potential murder trial in the history of the state. I mean, it's a national/international story at this point. Don't you think we should try to get a local jury first and then and see where the chips fall?
Absolutely. I mean, it happened in that county. So you tried in a county that you decided to commit the crime in. You tried in a county where you decided to bury those bodies of those two innocent kids. You brought it upon yourself. So the first duty is to try to get a fair and impartial jury inside of the county of where the crime was committed or where the bodies were actually found. And you can do that. You have to just go really hard and really deep into the jury questionnaire and asking each of those jurors to keep an open mind despite of all the news media that they've heard, and to focus on the facts and the evidence that's presented in the courtroom from that witness stand. But first, the first duty is to try it in that county. Hey, you want to be tried by a jury of your peers? Where are your peers? In the county where you live, where the bodies were found.
But I disagree on one point, and that is going deep and asking all the questions that you can and hoping to get an impartial jury. That's not always true. You can ask as many questions as you want. If you've got jurors who are going to hide their bias and they know exactly how to answer the questions being raised and give you the proper and correct answers so they can get on that jury, then you've got a problem. That means you're not getting an impartial jury. You're getting a jury that's already decided, that's already made up its mind, and will do anything to hide it.
That's where you need a good lawyer. That's where advocacy comes in. Bernard is exactly right. The case can be won or lost during voir dire. You're going to ask the jurors the questions, and you better find out if they have a bias. And if the lawyer doesn't find out that there's a bias, that's on the lawyer. That's what we have to do. We've got to get the best jurors for our clients. So it's our best shot of winning the case or losing the case, in my opinion.
I've always said it.
You're right.
I've always said it. You can win and lose a case during voir dire, during jury selection, before even making your opening statement. But sometimes, remember, there's limitations placed on defense counsel as far as timing, the amount of time they've got for voir dire, how many questions they can ask, what they can ask. So we know that there are limitations and a number of challenges that we can raise. There's always some limitations, and there's no perfect way of getting that perfect jury. And that's why I'm saying, if it's an area where there's a lot of publicity and a lot of people believe that the defendants are guilty, then that's not going to be a good place to try the case. And that's not a place where the defendants can get a fair trial. I don't care how heinous the crimes are. Everybody in this country has the right to a fair trial and an impartial jury. And if that means we need to change venue, then we change venue.
And you know what I want for my jury? Common sense. Just give me a jury that can apply common sense to a set of facts, something that some folks from Pinellas County a few years ago weren't able to do.
You keep going there. Right. Keep going back there, Vinny.
I didn't say the name, though, Randy. I did not say the name. When we come back, we're going to take a look at a story everyone's talking about from over the weekend in Atlanta. Again, another tragic situation. I mean, people dying, it's absolutely tragic. But we're going to try to take a look at the law tonight and how it applies to the shooting at the Wendy's parking